You so much for joining once again. And if you're new here, my name is Shelley Pryor. I'm a realistic watercolorist in Ontario, Canada, and every week at this time I do a live demonstration. So if you want to know about when I'm doing those, you can always subscribe and hit the bell notification. It's Wednesday mornings, Toronto time at 10 a.m. All right, so last week we talked about creating motion, and I did a couple of horses, and they were running, and I really wanted to capture the motion of the legs moving and that sort of thing. And this week I wanted to sort of expand on that idea and move ahead into things like creating the look of speed or creating a movement that isn't necessarily kicking up dust from the ground or something like that. So let's jump in. I'm going to be working small. This is Arch 140-pound cold press paper that I'm working on. I'm actually just working on the back of something that I had previously done. My palette consists of mainly Da Vinci watercolors, but of course any artist quality watercolors will be fine for this demonstration. And I'm going to be working from what you might typically be working from, and that is, one of your pictures taken from your phone. One thing that you're not always going to get when you're taking your photographs is motion. So we can be a little bit more creative in our painting process by adding motion that we don't even see in our still image that we're working from. So this is a picture of my old car. It actually got stolen. If you happen to see it, will you let me know? But this car was just sitting in a driveway, and I'm going to try to portray this as if it were in motion. So for those of you that are looking for something nice to paint for a masculine subject, say it's a teenage son or a husband or something like that, you want to create something that might appeal to them. You can think of these motion or action pictures or paintings as a good subject for that type of person. You know, guys seem to like action a lot, action movies and everything else. So this is a really good topic to fit right into that. There's actually a million different subjects that you could create the motion of. Think of a golfer or a skier or a cyclist or somebody who rides a motorcycle or drives a car, or like the dances, or there's just 101 different things that you could apply this to. So if you have any questions as I'm going along, will you please put them into the chat in capitals? That, of course, doesn't apply when you're putting a comment under the video, but if you're watching live and you have a question for me, if you put it in capitals and I'm glancing over to the TV or to the computer screen, I'll be able to spot it really fast. So do put it in capitals. It's just easier for me. Okay. So this, as I said, is my old car. I'm going to quickly sketch this out. I don't draw a lot of cars, but I'll just sort of walk you through my thought process as I'm doing this. I am looking at the placement of the overall car, so maybe from here to here, I'm going to fit the whole car in this space. It's going to be on a general angle like this. What's closer to me is larger, and I'm looking at the angles. I don't need to draw a perfect car for this particular demonstration, but I wanted to get the idea at least. Okay, the front wheel cap, hubcap, and wheel are much larger because, of course, they're closer. So I'm going to portray that with a larger wheel. This wheel back here is much smaller because, of course, it's further away. And just get something like this. I was doing body work on this car. I was out in my driveway most of last summer just trying to get this car fixed up, and as soon as it was, of course, somebody else thought, oh, there's a nice car, and just took it from a parking spot at a mall. And yeah, anyway, so this is one way to capture it, I guess. It's probably somewhere in Africa by now, but all right, so there's not the best drawing of a car, but you know, you get the idea. So there's the general gist of it here. Okay, there we go. So that's the drawing that I've got. You know, not super duper, doesn't really matter. But what I've got in the background of the original image is, you know, a hedge and trees and houses and things like that. Just because those are there doesn't mean I have to paint those just the way that they are. So if I really want to make this look like it is moving, I'm going to blur all of that. But I'm not just going to blur it. I'm going to blur it and smear it, if you will. So I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to take a larger brush here because I want to wet the area that I'm going to be working. I'll get some of my colors prepared ahead of time. Oh, I'm missing some water. 1 second. Okay, got my water, got my paper towels. Thought I was all ready this morning. I was doing a lot of double checking, but obviously missed that. So I'm going to take a large brush. I don't know what this is. This is like an 8, 10, something like that. And it's a squirrel hair brush. Doesn't matter really what kind, just I want to wet the paper. Let me get all this other stuff out of the way here. I'm just going to take one at a time. And I'm going to wet this whole area back here. Now I'm going to wet it, but I haven't prepared my colors, so I'm just going to have to wet it, and then I'll have to re-wet it before I actually put the color down. So I'm going to take this scene that looks like it's parked, and that's the way most of your photos are going to end up looking. But that doesn't mean that's the only way you have to paint that. So I'm going to go around the car. I'm not wetting the car itself because I want to have that nice and crisp, but I want to have the background blurry. So I'm going to need some greens. So I'm going to use some Payne's Gray. I'm not going to clean my palette. I'm just going to mix right here. I'm going to take some Payne's Gray, some yellow. Aureolin is what I'm using. So Aureolin. Payne's Gray. Now when I mix those are going to give me a nice green. But I want to have some clean, brighter greens as well. So I'm going to have some blue so that I can mix my blue and yellow and get a brighter green. This is a cobalt that I'm putting out here. And I will need some of that blue for my sky. I need a nice bright red. Looking here, I want to have some red here. There's a little bit of red there. That's actually a car behind this car, so I'm not going to include that. And then I'll need like something for the pavement, or I'm going to make it look maybe more like a road, so I need a gray of some kind. So maybe I'll use some neutral tint for that. And I might warm that up with a little bit of raw sienna. Okay, so my paper's still pretty wet, so I think I'm going to be able to go ahead. This is actually the most important part of the lesson, is that we're going to not paint the car any differently, but we are going to paint the background differently. So that's going to give us that illusion of speed. So I'm going to mix up some greens. Like so. When I'm mixing my colors, you'll notice that what I do is I don't just create a puddle of green and then a puddle of something else and everything else. You know, everything's got its own little space. I kind of create a blurred from yellow to a transition from yellow to the Payne's Gray, for example. So anything I mix in between can have a little bit more Payne's Gray, or it can have a little bit more yellow, and that's going to give me yet a different green. So let's start off with just a little bit of sky through here. Great thing is I don't have to worry too much about placement. It all depends on how much speed you're trying to portray. So we're going to pretend this car is fleeting, as if it were when it was somebody took it. But I'm going to go with some of these yellows here. There's a little bit of red. Let's for that red, I'm going to use a bit of alizarin crimson. I didn't soften my paints today. I usually do. At the start of every day, I usually soften up my paints. And today I was remiss about that, so sorry. So I'm going to put some red here. Now I'll get into some of the greens. If I'm switching back to a lighter color, I'm always rinsing my brush in between, because if I don't, I'm going to end up, everything's going to have the same color. So I do rinse in between if I'm switching back to like a yellow, for example. So I want to have some yellowy green along the top of this hedge, yellowy green along the grass. I guess it's more yellow than I need it, so I'll put some blue into it. Now here's where I start cutting in around the car shape. This is going to be the part where I have to kind of slow it down and really be a little bit more careful. This hedge is quite dark, so I'm going to have more Payne's Gray in this particular section. And everything's blurring together and connecting, and that's perfectly fine. I don't think we're going to see the house across the road, so I'm just going to carry this on to the other side, and let's put in some sort of roadway. I'm going to rinse this a little bit because I want this to be lighter in value. Okay, so now everything's wet, and I'm going to create the look of the blur. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt this. Actually, I'm going to protect the car. Okay, I'm going to protect the car, and I'm going to spritz it. Oops, I'm getting my whole picture wet here. And then I'm going to tilt it, and I'm going to let everything run in one direction here. Using my paper towel to collect it. You would want to be careful of drips coming down your car, of course, but I really wanted to get this streaking effect. And I can help this with my brush. Everything's wet enough right now that if I were to, drag my brush through here, it will just sort of stretch out the colors and so on. Probably could have put other things in there. So let's put, we'll put another tree here, right? And that can get stretched out, and I can just take my brush and help it, or I can just let it flow the way I've done right here. I'm not going to tilt it back. I want to get the effect that this is speeding by. So I'm drinking up everything that's dripping here. I'm drinking up, and this looks like it's going up, and I don't like that. So I'm going to help it with my brush. I want this to look like it's going more all in one direction, as if I were taking my camera and panning along with the car as it's speeding by. So everything has to go in a straight line. It can't curve. It can't do funky things like that. It's going to have to go in one direction. Okay, so hopefully I have that sort of straight. Now this car, this isn't exactly a profile picture. Probably would have been better if it were, but it's not. And I didn't have a lot of my own references, but I wanted to work from my own poor reference in this case, just because I really wanted to see could I make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, as they say. I wanted to see if that was going to be possible. So I was just drinking up a little bit of the color that was leaching into the car there. So I was just using some paper towel for that. And I'm going to dry this. So I'll just take my little heat tool here, and I'm going to dry it. And take a quick peek at the chat here. It's finally September. We're hitting fall now, and things are starting to cool off a little bit. Now, all of this is going to dry a lot lighter because I was working on a wet surface. Got a mark there on my paper, but you can see it lightening up as I'm drying it. Okay, so I'm going to take a synthetic brush because there's a couple of areas here that, I had paint bleeding in and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to clean a little bit of that up. That was from spritzing it. I didn't cover it very well when I was doing that. Obviously, if you had a little bit more time than I have for a demo, you could mask off your car with masking fluid, and then you'd have perfectly perfect freedom to go ahead and paint that background without concerning yourself with anything bleeding into the car. But I'm just going to lift what I can for now. And you're going to ignore that. Because now, if I've got a speeding car, I might not want the back, like the trailing end of this motion to be crisp. So I'm going to also intentionally soften up the tail end of the car. So I'm just using a well-blotted brush, damp and blotted, and I'm just going to soften up this end. While the paint is fresh, it's always easier to do that while the paint is fresh. Okay, so that end is a little bit softer. So hopefully you're already getting a little sense of the motion. So I'm going to take now the color of the car, and I'm just going to get that in there and get the tires in and so on. We're just going to see what this blurred background or smeared background is going to look like. So I'm going to use cobalt blue and some neutral tint. But I don't want to just paint the car like I paint my walls. I'm going to be looking for highlight, for shadow, and changes. Like if a car is a very reflective surface, you're often going to see reflections. But one thing to keep in mind about reflections on a shiny surface that is speeding by like a car is that the reflections are also going to be blurred. And that's because the car is speeding, what's being reflected is not. So it's going to have that blur motion as well. So if you're creating this from a still picture, keep that in mind. Don't do still reflections. There's going to be something very surreal or odd about it if you make those reflections very sharp. So, okay, not too bad. Now I may use a little bit of white paint just for speed here. I typically don't like using white, but I'm going to just do it in this case so that I can hurry things along. I don't want to use up your whole morning, but so I've put a little bit of blur in the car there, something bright and sort of pinkish. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep adding in my blurriness here. And then there's some bright shine towards the back of the car. This is not my finest painting job, but to get the point across, I don't need to do that. Let's use a little bit more blue here. The car was actually silver, but it is reflecting a lot of things in the surroundings, so we are picking up color. Because it's changing on the car as I'm painting it, the colors are switching from a pink to a blue or whatever. I mean, the viewer is familiar enough with cars that we know it's not a multicolored car. We'll understand immediately that this is a reflection, or the effect of a reflection. So we have some wheels here, and they're not pure white. They're very light, but they're not pure white. And of course, we have reflections on the windshield. Once again, it's very reflective. It's glass, so you're going to get that blurred effect even on the glass, although maybe not on the windshield. Okay, so the windshield, although in this reference, it's angled enough that we're really just capturing sky. But we'll try and capture a little bit of reflection, speeding reflection in the glass, like the windows on the side. Okay, so we'll go just cobalt blue here for the windshield. And the interior of the car is pretty dark, but you will get some reflection. So let's take some of that same sort of red. Now I pretty much put all light colors down there, right? Let's get some light color on the tires in here as well. I'm just going to use some neutral tint for this, and we'll just checking to see if it's dry. And I'm going to try to replicate at least a light color at first for the tire. One of the things that people find difficult about painting a car is the getting the tires round. I know it's kind of a silly thing, but it can be a trick just to get the roundness of those tires. All right. What else would there be? Well, of course, there's going to be a shadow under the car. I'm going to come a little darker on these tires, and then I'll come back and I'll start building up a little bit more on the actual car itself. I don't want to make a career out of just painting a car here today, but I wanted to show the effect of the blur effect. So if we are focusing on this, there might be a few things nearby, like for example, there may be a curb, right? If this is pavement and then there's grass, there may be a curb here. Now, because the curb would be running along, like if you panned along a curb, it doesn't, like, I mean, you're moving along the curb, but it's all in the same place. So it may not be out of focus. It might be just a little bit, here, we'll make that a roadway there. We'll just change this to a bit of a road, if you can sort of envision that. And let's get a little bit more hint of things on the car. I'm going to give this a dry though, because I don't want things to start blurring as I'm painting the car, so I want to dry in between. Angela's asking, Shelley, just interested to know what happens to the shadows on the road. Oh, well, there you go. The shadows on the road will move with the car. Okay, so let's get a little bit of a hint of detail on here. Now I'm going to go a little bit lighter here. I want the idea of being able to see through the car here. I suppose I need a person in the car if it's speeding. At least let's hope so, right? So I may put the shadow, just the hint of a shadow of a person there. And a couple of markings for the lights. So put a little bit of red here, a little bit more orange on the front, that sort of thing. And I want to come in with a few more shadows here. Maybe I won't need to put any white in. That would be nice. Rinse my brush and soften an edge here, and let's get just a little bit more color at the front. And then when you start adding the details in, as you can see, it starts to shape up, right? We need to have the illusion of those hubcaps, okay? So I'm not going to fuss over them. I'm just going to get the 5 larger holes in the, I guess it's a wheel, isn't it? It's not a hubcap, it's just the wheel, the rim. And you really don't want to put a lot of sharp focus to this, because, of course, the wheels are going to be like super in motion. So you might even, to get the effect of it moving, you might even blur that quite deliberately, right? Now, I think that this car would look a lot more in motion if I blurred this further. So how can I do this and make this look like this car's blurring even more? I'm going to take a little magic eraser. I'm going to remove some of that background. Blot that off. For the magic eraser, I've wet it, squeezed out as much of the water as I can, and I'm going in that sort of speeding direction here, and it's blurring the back of the car, and I'm not concerned about that, because I think that's just adding to the feeling of the speed. All right, so now with that sort of ghost image sort of trailing behind the car, and the fact that the surroundings, the background is blurred by itself as well, I'm really getting that sense of motion. So here, I'm going to blur this just a little more. Get some paper towel here. I think if I really wanted to create the sharpness of the front of the car, I can definitely darken up some of that hedge area. But if I'm adding in and I decide I want to darken things in the background at this point, I'm going to have to put it on. But look, it's going to give me a crisp edge. So what I'm going to have to do is intentionally blur it. So I'm going to put this on. Rinse, blot my brush, and make sure that this edge and this edge are both blurred, just like the rest of the background. So if you have to come back to do stuff like that, just make sure you're not adding it in and then all of a sudden you've got hard edges. You want to make sure that those stay nice and blurred looking. All right, so hopefully that looks like it's moving. So that was, you know, kind of a fast and dirty kind of portrayal, but it's to give you the idea and spark some inspiration. Now, if you're not using a car, envision a skier racing down a hill, a cyclist whizzing by you on the road, you know, a runner, whatever the case may be. Hopefully this is going to give you some idea, but the magic eraser and just sort of giving that ghost image of where the car has been is a tremendous help in creating the motion. So I hope that helps. Let me just quickly read the comments in case there's any questions about that. Okay. The hardest thing to paint, I think, are the chrome reflections if you happen to do that much detail. Well, the good news is if your object's in motion, you don't have to do as much detail. You may have to elongate, like if you want to make it look like it's shiny, is to elongate. So one of the things here on this windshield is I could elongate some of the reflections even more. Like, for example, I could put a little strip through here and lift that. Now, it's not going to reflect on this. This bar was kind of a matte finish, so it's not going to reflect on that. But in anything reflecting on this shiny surface is going to be blurred because it's in motion. All right, so... thanks for the great topic. These principles apply to my painting of hummingbirds in flight. I've been researching how to capture motion because I wanted more than just the standard blurry wings. Yeah, I actually did. I originally posted one of my paintings, which I can't show you because I've sold it, but a hummingbird where the face is very much in focus, but the wings are very much in motion. And the idea is that you blur the wings into the background as well, and they only have a hint of maybe feather distinction. Don't go crisping up those feathers or anything like that. If it's in motion, you're not going to see anything crisp. You just need sort of a little separation between every feather, and it's going to be blurry. But the face itself could be absolutely still, you know, as they do, right? It's the wings are going like mad, and their face is like motionless. So that's how you can capture that. Okay. So I want to try and hit one more very quick one. I've got all kinds of ideas. Let's see. I'm going to scroll through. If I can find my mouse, here it is. I'm going to scroll through some of the other images that I have. Let's get rid of that one. We'll try okay, a skateboarder. Look at this skateboarder. What fantastic action just by the gesture. And these are pictures. This is a picture from pixabay.com, by the way. I don't have the link. It was something I saved. But the skater's got some great action going on here, and you can definitely blur out that background, but they're not speeding by. They are, you know, they're probably in upward motion, right? It looks like they're just coming off of a C ramp or something. I think they call it a half tube. I think they call it half tube. There's something like that. Let's look at one other. We've got this dancer. Obviously, she hasn't been frozen this way, other than by the camera. And I might do this one because I think I could do this one fairly quickly to illustrate what it is I want to show. So here we have the blur. Last week we talked about spatters and making the feet disappear of the horses and that sort of thing. I haven't added the link underneath this, but I will do so, and the link to the very first motion one. Let me find this picture. Okay, we'll bring this one over. And I especially like that she's got this nice tulle skirt on that, you know, obviously could flow very nicely. So I'm going to quickly sketch this. And I'm picking two very tough subjects to sketch here today. I've got my car, and now I've got this dancer here, but I'm going to do the best I can in short time. Zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so let's get the overall shape first of all. And a dancer has to be balanced, so we need to make sure that she doesn't look like she's falling over, right? So we need to have her toes at the right place. And I know it's very messy drawing so far. She's going to be silhouetted, so I'm not too concerned about, pencil lines at this stage, but little gestures. Of course, a dancer is really going to be hyper aware of, how they hold their hands, even their fingers and that sort of thing. I'm not going to get into too much nuance here. It's the overall motion that I'm trying to capture today. But and I'm trying to do it in rapid time. And then we have this nice sort of skirt here. Okay, so I've got something of a face here, or not much of a face, but I've got at least the figure. And I'm just going to do this like a silhouette for now. I really don't even need to worry about a background in this case, because I just want to show another way of capturing this. Would it help to do the blur effect behind the wheels? Oh, on my car? Yeah, I think you could definitely do that too. In fact, that's a good point, is that you could actually create the blur of the wheels on this car. Just to zip back here to this one for a second. So yeah, you could definitely blur some of this in here. Something like that. Sure, absolutely you could. So with my dancer, I'm going to use here. We'll use neutral tint for this, and let's just get got a big chunk on my brush here. Let's just take some neutral tint. It's a really large brush I'm using here, so it's a little tricky to get the nuances of the lip. And I'm just not worrying about all the details. That's why I thought this would be a nice sort of quick one to illustrate what I wanted to do. This one again is another image from Pixabay. So you're welcome to look this one up. I think I put in, for the search, I put in ballerina or ballet, maybe just the word ballet. Oop, she's giving the middle finger there, flipping the bird. Now for this nice skirt that she's wearing, it's obviously more transparent, so I'm going to dilute the color here for creating the skirt. And then we come back into focus for her legs. Sort of cringe when I see them doing this on their toes. Like, I know they're wearing special shoes, but it's just try to imagine it. All right, so I'm just going to add a little bit in here to suggest the actual skirt. Okay, so we have the figure, and they're suggested, and let's just put a ruffle or two in this skirt and suggest a hem. And that'll be enough. All right, so unlike the car, which is actually speeding, she has some motion happening, obviously. Since her hands are completely up, or her arms are completely up, I presume that they were previously down. So I'm going to go on the assumption that that's the way things were. So I'm going to hint at, I'm going to go very thin color here, hardly anything on my brush. And I'm going to do almost a ghost of where I predict her hands would have been. Perhaps her knees would have been bent. Now I can create the gesture depending on which side of the arm I put this ghost image. So I could make it look like her arm was sweeping sort of across her head, or I could have it coming up from the other direction. So if you've, if you're observing carefully from life, you can see sort of which one is true, and go from there. But I'm going to presume that her hand was coming in this direction. And maybe even suggest that her hand was previously out. Now, I'm not a ballet dancer or anything like that. I really don't know that much about it. So forgive me if I'm really messing up the dance moves here. But I wanted to just give the feeling of this motion. Perhaps, you know, her skirt was flared, that sort of thing. But I'm sort of hinting at the motion. Now, what you can do is have a little bit more suggestion closer to the arm. And then as it goes away, it gets more and more and more faded until you can no longer see where the arm has been. Rinse. I keep rinsing my brush, and now you can see that she was in motion. You can see that that is how the arm that was coming from that direction, and so on. Perhaps her head was even moving. You know, you can even suggest some of that. But the further away from the action or from the stop motion, the further away you get, the more blurred or faded all of this is going to be. So all of this is creating that feeling of movement from what otherwise would have been just a still picture. And that's how we tend to paint a lot of our paintings. But think about the narrative behind all of these pictures where, you know, they're from life. Why are we making them so lifeless, right? We could definitely add in the feeling of racing or moving or jumping or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things that you can actually create in your in your otherwise still paintings. So I hope this gives you at least a little bit of food for thought so that you can approach things maybe a little bit differently. Not everything needs to have a crisp edge. If we took sort of our cue from the car, our speeding car or whatever, and we wanted to blur, say, let's blur the underside of her arm here. That can even give us the feeling of more motion. It might give us the feeling of faster motion with that blur, because generally things blur more when they are speeding. But we can definitely blur those things. I think I actually liked it better when it was still, but you get the idea. It's your painting. You get to do whatever you want. So anyway, so there's my two examples. We've got our ballerina, which her looks like her upper body's too big for her lower body, but you get the idea of the whole thing anyway. And our racing car. My car never went so fast, actually. But, you know, and you can come in and start detailing certain areas. But if you come back in to detail things, one thing to keep in mind is the amount of detail you're putting in. Don't fall into the trap or into old ways of just always detailing things. Just because they're blurry doesn't mean that they need to be sharpened up. Sometimes blurry is really good in your painting to portray what it is the message you want to get across. So let me just have a quick look at the chat here. Let me see if we've got any questions. Okay, so sorry, the orientation of these isn't the same, but I just glanced up. Angela says, "Looks like this is referring to the ballerina. Looks like me when there's a wasp." Suzette says, "Okay, good. I was going to ask if you can use this technique for slower motion, such as an animal, say a cat jumping or a dancer, is perfect. Thanks." Yeah, there you go. So definitely, you will create the sense of speed the more blur you incorporate into your whatever's in motion. As for the dancer, will I paint the shadow? Well, sure, I can paint the shadow. Let's take a little water here, and we'll. Yeah, she looks like she's in midair, doesn't she? There we go. There's a shadow under her. Where she touches the ground is going to be the darkest part of that shadow. So let's put a little extra dark right there where to make her feel grounded. But yeah, there's the shadow. Okay, I'm not seeing too many questions that I haven't already answered. It's really more for inspiration here. I hope that you can get the idea of going beyond the photo, right? The photos are always so frozen in time, but just think of the possibilities, how many different effects that you can create just by making something look like it's in motion. So my challenge to you is this week, don't wait because you'll forget how to do it, but this week, pick something, pick your own photo, especially your own photo, something that would normally be in motion, an animal, a bird, whatever the case may be, a car. I mean, you can even just take a picture of a car parked on your street and see if you can take that photo and make it look like that car's racing down the street. I want you to give it a try. Think outside the box, and maybe you have some other ideas for creating motion. If you do, be sure and share them with me, especially in the comment section. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap this one up. I want to thank you once again for all your subscriptions, your support, and for joining me every week, because I wouldn't be here otherwise. If you weren't here, wouldn't be any point. And so happy September. We will see you again next week. Have a good one in the meantime. Bye for now.